Okay, here we go, part 9.
Where were you when you started to down 911?
I was kneeling down next to him.
Okay. Did you know what had happened or starting to process what happened when you knelt down next to him?
Yes, I started. I knew I had shot him. I wasn't sure where he was hit on his body. I started doing some compressions with my left hand.
What were you doing with your right hand?
I was on the phone with 911.
Is that when we first heard the 911 when the operator picks up?
Yes, sir.
You were trying to do a compression with your left hand.
Yes.
Had you ever done CPR before?
No, I have not.
Did you do that very long?
No, I did not.
What caused you to stop? What caused you to stop doing CPR when you were on 911?
Dispatcher asked me where I was at. I had no idea where I was at. I had to get up and go outside and look at what apartment number I was.
Okay, so that's critical because it shows that she didn't know. She didn't plan this. She didn't know. I mean, who believes that she conspired to go up there, kill this guy, shot him, got down with him, realized she was in the wrong apartment, and planned this so well that when the dispatcher asked her where you're at, she had the forethought in the middle of all this planning to kill somebody to say, you know what, I better go check to see where I'm at because I don't know. Who believes that? I mean, it's just crazy. So this absolutely goes to the credibility of, not to mention she said, I think 19 times in her 911 call, she thought it was her apartment. And again, you know why she's realizing this? And again, they're not pushing this. Time is starting to slow down. Her heart rate is going down. She's losing her adrenaline jump or impact. When she went in a fight or flight, you get that big adrenaline dump. So now she's losing that feeling because she doesn't feel like she's the threat of her life anymore. And that's why her compression's never doing CPR. I think he wanted to get out because when I was listening to the prosecution a little bit, he was saying that you had a CPR card. Isn't it true you've been through CPR training? When she answered this question, the attorney could have been more specific and said, have you ever done actual CPR on a victim before? That would have been a better question. Because now he says, have you ever done CPR? And she says, no. Now the prosecution is going to get to say, well, now you're lying, aren't you? Because didn't you go through CPR training? You did it on a mannequin. Didn't you practice it? And she's going to say, well, yeah, but I've never done it on a real person. Oh, but that's not what you told your attorney. You said you never did it before. That wasn't true, was it? And then he starts getting into this circular logic. So that's why phrasing questions are important, and you need to make it clear.
And that's what we hear on the 911 tape when you finally find the number?
Yes, sir.
How did you do that?
I stepped outside and just looked up, and that's when I saw I was in 1478.
And did you tell the operator that at that time?
Yes.
And then what did you do next?
I went back to Mr. John.
Okay. Do you remember turning on the light?
No, I have no idea what part. I had so many thoughts racing through my head. I turned on the light. I have no idea when I turned that light on.
A great follow-up question here. Is that normal? Have you been trained, you receive your training in fight or flight, that it's normal when you're involved in a critical life-saving incident or a life-threatening incident? Is it normal that you kind of lose track of things and you don't remember certain little things? Have you ever been taught that? That would have been, again, you need to tie in. I just don't think they got into the chaotic fight or flight situation that she entered. And that explains a lot of the confusion, a lot of her inaction, a lot of her inability to see things. And I just don't think they drove that home. I did hear a little bit, because I've been listening to different parts on the radio. I heard some guy mention, I think, fight or flight. But I didn't hear all the testimony, and I don't know how he connected it and did all that. Again, me personally, I would have put the fight or flight expert on because that's what this case would have keyed on. And everything that he said as an expert, I'd have been tying into her situation. And he can't do that because he hasn't put the expert on yet.
Did that happen after?
And I know somebody's going to come here and go, you're not an attorney. He had a plan and he's getting paid, but you don't know which. Look, I understand strategy, and cops have, or lawyers have different strategies, and they decide on how they're going to do it. I don't know why he put her on first. I don't plan or try to figure out why. I just think it would have painted a clearer picture, and I'm all about painting a clear picture to the jury.
Yes, it did.
You know that for a fact?
Yes, I do.
I lost that.
Went back in,
No idea when I turned that light on.
did that happen after the shooting?
Yes, it did.
You know that for a fact?
Yes, I do.
As you went back in, where did you go next?
Now, I would have, if I'm sure the prosecution wrote down a question. How do you know for a fact it happened afterwards? Because as the attorney, I would have asked, if you're so sure that it happened afterwards, why? Because I remember when I went in, it was dark and I couldn't see his hands, and I saw the body, and I was standing at the doorway and I couldn't make out his hands, so I knew it was dark. Had the light been on when I entered, I would have been able to see his hands and I wouldn't have been as scared, and I probably wouldn't have shot. That would have been a perfect opportunity to get that in. And they glossed over it and missed it.
I went to sit by Mr. John.
Okay. Did you start trying to do a compression at all after that?
I started to do a sternum rub on him.
Okay. What's a sternum rub?
I've seen a lot of paramedics do a sternum rub. A sternum rub is usually you use like your fist and you rub the sternum of someone's chest. Usually that wakes up a lot of people who are unconscious, and it hurts.
Okay. Why did you want to do that?
I wanted him to keep breathing. There wasn't, the state he was in, I knew it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Was he conscious at all? Could you tell?
He was a little conscious.
Okay. We hear things.
He was a little conscious. The jury's probably saying, how do you know? What did he do? What? See, if a jury can ask a question, then you're not doing your job. And a lot of times when the jury asks questions and they think the attorney didn't answer it, they're like, what's he trying to hide? Why wouldn't he normally follow up? A normal follow-up to be, if you thought he was a little conscious, explain that to me. What did he do, or what was he doing to make you think he was a little conscious? He was moaning. He was gasping. He was breathing. He appeared to say something. I don't know what he was doing because he didn't ask the follow-up question. So, again, do you want to go? Sometimes the attorney will say, you know what? When I get my client on the stand, I don't want him to stay there too long. I want to get my points across. I don't want to go any further because then it gives the defense or prosecution places to go, and I don't want them to go. And if I didn't practice the answer and I didn't think about it before and I don't know the answer, I'm not going to ask the question. But sometimes when you have these golden opportunities in a trial, when somebody asks a question and you can tie it together, it really makes it easier for the jury to understand what happened.
From time to time on the 911, stay with me, bud, things like that. What are you doing when we hear those things? Do you know?
I'm doing the sternum rub on him. I'm rubbing his chest, just trying to keep him there.
I would have followed up. Did you say anything? Because I bet you she said, I'm sorry, stay with me, please don't die. I guarantee you she said something to that effect. And I think her saying that helps show her human side, and that she knew she made a mistake and it wasn't planned and she was confused and this was a shock to her. And he didn't follow up there. He might. I don't know what's going to happen next.
I want to play that 911 tape for you again, and then I'll have some questions for you, okay?
Yes, sir.
Anyone that thinks she planned this, listening to this 911 tape, is a damn fool. I mean, you would have to be a fool if you believe she planned this, listening to this 911 tape. Or you would have to believe that she is the most fantastic actor in the entire world.
Hi, this is Get up here.
Sheriff, I think this car number is your emergency.
Hi, this is Officer the officer. Can I get my name? I'm in number.
Do you need police and or just EMS?
Yes, I need both.
Okay, what's the...
Now, Has a client prep, I know everybody's saying you're interrupting. I know I'm interrupting, but I have these thoughts that pop in. I want to share them because this is a teaching opportunity for courtroom survival. So bear with me. She has probably heard this 911 tape 2 or 3 times. If I was prepping my client for trial, I would almost want to desensitize her a little bit. I mean, her showing some emotion is good, that it's not null, but I don't want her breaking down like she did on Trying to Key. So I don't know how many times she's heard this 911. Probably, I'm going to say at least 3 or 4 times she's heard it. Should she have heard it more or less? I don't know. I don't see her reaction during the whole thing. I can tell it's bothering her, but I really don't want her reacting too much to this.
Yeah, girl.
I'm at apartment number 1478. I'm in 1478.
And what's the address there?
It's 1210 South Lamar, 1478, yes.
What's going on?
Something else I would bring up is I notice you're out of breath in the 911 call, but you didn't fight anybody and you didn't run anywhere. Why are you out of breath? Come on, everybody together. When you're in fight or flight and you're faced with a critical incident and a life-threatening incident, your heart rate goes up, your breathing goes up, you're out of breath. I'm trying to get oxygen. I'm experiencing things that normal people do when they go into fight or flight, and my body is so much into fight or flight right now because of this. I was so scared that I was trying to suck oxygen to get oxygen. It seems like I couldn't breathe. I couldn't catch my breath, yet I wasn't doing anything physical. That's classical fight or flight. Again, we're tying together the fear, the real fear, not the imagined fear, not the fear the DA's trying to say she just wanted to shoot somebody eating ice cream. We're talking about real fear of a real life-threatening situation.
I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was in my apartment, and I shot a guy thinking that he was thinking it was my apartment. He
Shot someone?
Yes, I thought it was my apartment. I'm fucked. Oh my god. I'm sorry.
And where are you at right now?
I'm in.
I think she said, I'm sorry.
What do you mean? I'm inside the apartment with him. Hey, come on.
What's your name?
I'm Amber Guyger. I need to get me. I'm in.
Okay, we have help on the way.
I know, but I'm with my dog. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay.
Hey, Dad.
Hold on.
Fuck.
Get off the phone, people. I've told you before, once you make a 911 call, get off the phone. In this case, it helped her a little bit because she said 19 times that I think I was in the wrong apartment. So pretty much anybody with 2 brain cells that they can rub together will figure out that she probably thought she was in the wrong apartment. But get off the 911 call. You're in a critical incident. You're not thinking clearly. You're going to say things that are going to be what's called spontaneous statements or, emergency utterances, whatever the term they're using now. And those things can be used against you. And the DA will use something on here, I'm sure, against her.
Okay, stay with me, okay?
911's always going to tell you to stay with them. Hang up the damn phone. You know where I'm at? There's no reason for me to be on the phone. As a matter of fact, I think the DA used against her that she didn't do CPR. She stayed on the phone too long. Because they used it against her that she texted somebody. I mean, her lawyer should have said, you notice that the dispatcher kept telling her to stay on the phone. So she was holding the phone and she couldn't do CPR because the dispatcher kept telling her to stay on the phone. She was following orders from the dispatcher. Even though she doesn't have to follow orders, you could have spun that in her favor. I'm not saying it's still good. I'd get off the phone. Give them the address, let them know what happened, and get off the damn 911. It's recorded. It's all voluntary statements. It can all be used against you later. Don't get caught up in a conversation with 911.
I need to provide that. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. That wasn't my apartment.
I understand. We don't help
I thought it
on
was my apartment.
Come on.
You can tell she's almost shaking on a stand because she's holding back emotion. That's why people go, she's faking crying. If she wanted to fake cry, this would be a good time to fake cry. She doesn't want to cry. This is an emotional thing for her. and I know it sounds like I'm carrying her flag, but I just think, man, after seeing the DA beat her up, I was totally, I'm always usually for the underdog anyway, and she is definitely the underdog here. Even though, I'll say it again because everybody keeps telling me that I don't care about the dead guy. The guy was in his apartment and he got killed and he should not be dead. I don't know how many times you can say it. I get it. I'm not justifying the killing. I'm justifying her actions were reasonable and it was a mistake of fact.
Hurry, please.
They're on their way.
I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I was kind of sworn apart on the third floor.
Okay, just that.
No. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment.
And then what ticket goes there?
I don't know. I don't know.
You wanna, okay.
I knew.
Normally when people plan to kill somebody and you charge them with murder, normally they don't call 911. Okay, that's just a clue for the prosecution, the great Dallas DA's office that can't figure out what murder is. How many murders have been charged where the guy called 911?
I thought it was my apartment.
They're trying to get in there. We have an officer there. You don't know the gate code?
No. I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment.
Okay, and what floor are you in right now?
The fourth floor. Fourth. Hey, bud, they're coming, I'm sorry, man.
Okay, where was he shot?
He's on the top left.
Okay, you were Dallas PD, right?
Yes.
Actually, I'm pretty impressed she's not crying. Shit, I think I'd be crying. This is a huge incident, but there's a lot of lessons to be learned in this, people. I mean, not only for courtroom survival, but if you get caught in a life or death situation where you have to use deadly force, where you have to run somebody over, where you end up, fighting somebody in your house and they end up dying. These little things about not talking to 911 and how to plan and prep and understand your statements, how critical it is, and how it's going to be used against you. Man, when you see the DA go after this girl in a minute, it's going to be brutal.
I didn't mean to. I'm so sorry. Hey, bud.
They're trying to get there to you, okay?
I know. Is it okay, bud?
Now, what she's experienced also is actually very normal. I mean, everybody that's killed somebody goes through this holy shit after it's over. Even if it's 100% justified and you're right. A guy comes into your house, points a gun at you, and you end up shooting him. You're going to go through these same emotions of this high, this adrenaline high, this crash of the adrenaline, this sudden, overwhelming anxiety of my life just changed. Am I going to get sued? Am I going to jail? Was I right? Did he have a gun? Was it a real gun? Was it loaded? Is this going to be justified? Are they going to arrest me? Is my whole life over? Am I going to lose my job? This is all normal when you shoot. The DA makes it sound like she's some cold sleeping with a guy who's married, and because she texted him, she's more worried about that relationship than she is a dead guy. That's just so far from the truth. And to bring in an expert on aftermath of a shooting or cops on what they go through after shooting, they would find that everything she did was totally normal, totally reasonable, and totally expected and predictable. There was no malice of forethought, and there was no planning to kill this guy and do this. Oh, I'm at 19 minutes. All right, hang on. We'll go to part 10.